Rock Havens Customs back. I've got a lot of requests on Instagram and on the comments on the YouTube videos of a custom build pickup. So we're gonna set the semis aside and we're gonna build this first gen welding rig. It will be equipped with opening doors, opening hood, custom built bumpers, a true frame and suspension. So if you wanna see how this transforms from a Hot Wheels Little Red Express to a one-off custom welding rig, stay tuned and you will see the transformation step by step. What's going on, everyone? Rock Haven Customs back. If you follow me on Instagram at Rock Haven Customs or on YouTube, which I go by my name on YouTube, which is Clint Thomerson. I've posted a couple on the groups on Facebook, which I'm members of, and on Instagram. Of course, I go by my YouTube video name. So if you've been following, I've been working on this first gen Dodge. I've just been experimenting with a couple of different things on this truck, and just really want to do a really high-end build on this truck. And I haven't recorded what I've done so far because it's kind of a trial and error thing, and I just kind of wanted to get things kind of situated before I really started shooting videos on this truck. But what I've got is this right here so far. It is a Hot Wheels Little Red Express, and I've cut the back half of a second one to give it an extended cab look. Of course, it's still got a lot of body work to go, but I wanted to get it at this point because I'm gonna build a true style frame for it and not the underneath plastic piece. So I had to get it to this point, and once I get everything kind of mocked up where I want it to be, then I will start really doing a lot of body work. And as you can tell, I've started building the windows for the extended cab part, and I've still got to do a lot of body work and fill in the seams where it's been joined. But I wanted it to be somewhat sturdy while I was at this part and building it, because I knew I was going to be doing a lot of cutting and fabbing on this truck. So far what I've done is I've took two trucks, put them together, and somewhat made the rear window section of this truck. I've also cut the door out of it, and if you saw last night, I don't know when this will upload, but I went ahead and built my door for it. I've got to go in here and put a piece of brass in for your vent window and solder it in, but I've got my door pretty much like I want it. And in the pictures I showed, it was just glued on. So the reason for tonight's video is I've got to put a firewall in the truck to be able to have places for this to go and for the hood. I've got several Dodges myself, and at some point, once it warms up, my son and I are building his truck, which is a first gen. It's a gas burner, but we've thought about the idea of putting a 4-cylinder Cummins in it, just because I think it'd be cool with it. So I've looked at the hood on our trucks here and did some measuring and everything, and made a period correct hood for this style truck. Of course, the body lines are not exactly the same, but in this casting, it's all you can get. So I've got to build a firewall to be able to hinge my hood so it will open. And I've also got to build the firewall to be able to put my hinges on so my doors will open. So I had to get at least this door cut out. I still got this door here that's got to go in. I will be putting mirrors on. I'll build them out of brass and do a set of mirrors for it. I'm thinking about doing the big style that had the 4 brackets because this will be a ton truck. I will probably do the 4 bracket style that went on the door, and then if I can get everything figured out and make it right, I will probably make the mirror so it will spin and flip around, because on a lot of them you could spin the mirror in and have the mirror on the inside, or then flip them out and then rotate them to be on the outside. So that's what I'm gonna try to build. I'm not sure yet. It depends on how much time I want to spend on it. And also I will put some door handles on it, the style that had the handle where you took your thumb and pushed the pin in to release the door. So I had to get it to this point to kind of start getting things figured out and mocked up. Like I said, this truck will have a true frame on it. I'm gonna build the firewall tonight, show y'all how this is gonna go. I'm not sure how well it's gonna go, but we're gonna give it an attempt. That way I can, like I said, do my hood hinge and my door hinges. And once I get one side figured out, I'll cut the other side out and do it. But I just wanted to leave this door in for rigidity purposes. And then once I get it all figured out and everything done, I'll come back in here and sand the casting down so it's not so bad. I will also come in on the back and fill the back in and do it the way it should be. But for tonight, I'm going to show you how to do the firewall on this casting. I've had a lot of people wanting some videos on some custom trucks, so I kind of put the semis away for a while. I've got one I'm building for a customer that's going to be a lot of time involved in it. So what little time I do have from work and stuff, I will be working on this and the semi for that guy because it's on a deadline, so it has to be finished. Also, I'm not sure, but this style grill is not a period correct for a first gen Cummins. This is a 77 to 79 because I know it's a 77 and a 78. I'm not sure about 79, but I own an 80 and I've got an 85 and an 86. But I know the headlights, the grill is it needs to be longer, but then your blinker sits down below and you have a square bezel for your headlights. So I'm not sure how I'm gonna address this situation, but once we get to that part, we'll figure it out. But I'm also gonna cut the bumper off and build like an iron cross bumper or like a move bumper. So I've got to draw out the plans for that. I'll just kind of sketch something up and figure out my bends and my dimensions of everything. I may build it out a piece of paper first so I can bend it on and tape it together and see how it all lays out. But anyhow, this will be a welding rig set up, I'm thinking. So that being said, we're going to start with the firewall on this truck tonight. So what I've done is I've cut a piece of brass and kind of started bending it just to kind of get a rough idea of how it's going to go. So this brass, I think, is let me get my calipers. This brass is 30 thousandths thick. I just wanted something a little beefier in there where it would hold the hinge and the doors. This will get glued in because I cannot bond the brass to the die cast here. So I'm just going to start cutting and forming and shaping and just kind of let y'all go along for the ride of what I've got going here. And once I get this, we'll also put fender wells in it. I will build the frame first, but I've got to get this part done and get the rear section done so I can get it to set on a frame. So that being said, let's get on with it, and you can see how I build the firewall of this. It's a little long at this point, so I'm just going to take a Dremel and start cutting into it to get some of this shortened up a little bit. We're just going to take it a little bit at a time because I don't know how much it's going to take to get it where to fit. I've got a big shear over here, so I just took it over there and cut a little bit off just to save some time, to get it just a shade closer. It's just easier with it to run over there and cut it, and that way to start getting where it needs to be. I can get it a little closer this way. So we've got it up inside the chassis, or in between the fender wells a little bit. So we're just going to start very slowly, just finessing it to get it in. What I've done here is I've come in here, cut the corners off, because the body line on the fender well here is keeping it from allowing it to recess up inside the casting. So we're just going to keep tinkering with it. Now, as you can see on this casting, it has an arch to it. I've somewhat arched this already, so we're going to take it and arch it just a little bit more to see if that will help it slide into place a little bit better. Generally, I like to find something that's round. Anything that you can, put against to get that arch. So I've got a pair of bending tongs here. They're heating their bending tongs. So I'm just going to take it and kind of put it around it to try to start arching that bend in a little bit, to kind of get this worked in. And if you go a little far, it's okay. We're just doing a little bit at a time here, and see if we can get it to get in there and finagle it in there. So we've got our firewall kind of like it needs to be, according to the thing. So I'm liking that, but I'm also not liking it, because I know on our trucks, the cowl here overhangs the firewall. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I'm gonna pull some of this bend out. I'm just gonna flatten it back out a little bit and let the firewall sit back kind of in the casting a little bit. So we're gonna take some of that bend out, just set it on the table there and kind of flatten it back out. So now I'm gonna start cutting down on it some more, because I don't like the way that's starting to turn out. All right, it's going up in there nice now. I like how it's looking a little bit better. So we need to do some recess cutting in the corners to allow for it to set up in there a little bit better. I'm gonna change my sanding disc out and put a regular cutting wheel on. To take my sanding disc off. And this, this is a lot of, it's nothing difficult about none of this. It's just, looking at the real thing and determining how can I build that in a toy version. So it's just making everything smaller. So I just come in and recess the corners at the top and bottom here, or top on each right and left side, driver and passenger side, to get that to fit up in there a little smoother. So I see that the casting has two little nibs right here, so we're going to take and get rid of them real quick. Take my cutoff wheel here and just go in there and knock them down. So we took them out. That way our cowl is flush underneath the bottom side of the truck here. And let's see what we got. Okay, we have that in. So as you can see on the inside here, you got to kind of make sure that you run this firewall pretty straight with the casting so that it fits, and you don't want it in there crooked. And also, where I made these relief cuts, I will probably put some more in. I'm not going to glue this in tonight because I've got to be able to make sure the way I decide to hinge my hood, that it will work, and I got to be able to get my hinge in and try to hide it so it's contained. I'm not exactly sure yet what I'm going to do, but as you can see on the inside, right on the back side here of the door, that's leaving me enough room to build my hinge to make a pivot point, and I'm not taking up so much of the casting, and it's leaving me a little bit of room. And also it's pretty close to where the corners of each side of the cowl comes onto the casting. So I'm liking how this is looking. So now need to take, as you can tell, the brass is taller than the casting itself, so we'll just take and scrub a line across there, and I'll take my shear and cut that off. So we're going to mark each side where, and when I cut this, I just kind of did a real rough cut so that I could just kind of get a piece to start in. All right, so we got that. I'm gonna just find something straight just to be able to draw a line across it. And we'll get this marked and cut off. So we got that. And then we'll do something else. So let me get this cut real quick. I'm just gonna zip over here to the shear, chop this off, and I'll be right back. All right, so that is really close. Maybe off just a little bit. I didn't quite cut the line off. That gives me a little bit of room to, if I have anything that I need to do, I can still have a little bit of working room. So that is our firewall in on the truck. So then that will give me, see if I can hold this. It will give me room to put my hood and be able to hinge it So when I go to put it on, we can make the hood open up like so and have a functioning hood on it. So now, that being said, we've got to be able to take this out and be able to allow the hinges to go in at some point or somewhere in this firewall. I like to leave them on the outsides like a true hinge would be on a truck. Also, we've got to be able to cut our firewall out for our transmission tunnel to be able to have our transmission to go in, because like I said, I'm gonna build this truck full on, everything, transmission, have a 12 valve Cummins in it, be a scratch built motor. We'll put the fender wells in, it'll have a transmission, transfer case, everything that a real truck's gonna have. I'm gonna try to put it in on this build so that it's a full-blown custom truck. Now, I don't know how long it's gonna take to build this truck, but we'll just take it one step at a time, and we will get everything put on it. Like I said, there's a door that'll be in it. I've still got to put my piece down for the vent window, and so that we'll wrap this video up. Still just got a lot of figuring and thinking and how I'm gonna do everything. And then once I get everything figured out of how everything's gonna work, I'll shoot the video and show y'all what we've got going on. This is just a fender that I had sitting here, so you know, if you can envision, you know, the fender wells inside the truck. Like I said, this is gonna be a full-blown build, and if you wanna watch as I build it from the ground up, we'll have, I'm not sure the suspension yet, but it will have some kind of suspension underneath it. I will probably just do a leaf spring in the rear and probably do leaf springs in the front. These are the tires that will go on the truck. They just come off of, I think, some kind of Tonka little fire truck or something, but these are the tires that I'm going to be using. Now, I've been doing some investigating and seeking out and looking at other trucks and builds and stuff. So just something real quick I'm going to show you, if I can find the other one. I don't know what I've done with it, but it should be sitting here somewhere. It's another option for aftermarket dually wheels, if you want to use that term. Well, just bear with me a second and I will find it. I just had it the other day. I don't know if I put it up or what I'm doing with it. Maybe in this little batch of wheels right here. It probably is. So, let's see if I can find it real quick. Here it is. So a lot of people have been wanting to know some kind of other wheels to put on trucks or whatever. This is another option for you. This is a super single that come off of DCP. Now, a lot of times they have the rib. Okay, here is the wheel before I do anything to it. You see how it has this rib all around it? If you'll take and somehow put a pin in here that's really tight, put it on a drill, you can take a piece of sandpaper or Dremel and spin this in a drill and then put your sanding disc up against it, and you'll start taking that off. I didn't do a very good job. I was just messing around test fitting. So then you have a dually wheel. And then you can just start finding a tire that'll fit on it. A lot of these little M2 tires will fit. Got one right here. These are, you'll have to stretch them. But if you take them, put them in warm water, take a hairdryer and heat them up, you can get them to stretch over these rims. Then on the DCP dump trucks, on the rear of the truck, they have a lift. That's what these are, and they're smaller to me than a DCP front on these trucks. This here. If you look at the hole pattern, the hole pattern's different. So you want to do the same thing with these. And take your Dremel or a sanding disc, put you a pin in there, spin this around, knock it off. You can cut this down a little bit, and then you can start putting the smaller tires. It's not so big. These are just a set of mud terrain tires that I've got. These will be equivalent to like a 39, 40, 44, something like that. I don't know exactly, but you can start using these wheels if you decide to build a dually. I was looking for another one of these tires. Here's one. Now, the only thing you will have to do if you go to a big tire like this, you will have to turn this down enough to put like a piece of brass or something on it to make a sleeve for the next set of tires to come on. But once you get this sanded down, these should fit up on there really nice. You can actually use these fronts, backs, whatever, and it gives it that old style wheel like when I was growing up, we had the Outlaw 2s or the Mickey Thompsons or whatever, but it has pretty good detail, and you know, it would look good on a dually. So, you know, there's your front and back for your dually, and you know, you might can do some trading around to find a set of these. You can get on eBay and order them. I saw a set today. I was looking, and they're a couple bucks for a set. So you can get 2 sets. You get a front drive and rear drive, and you'd have enough to do 2 dualies for the rear, and then you just have to find you some lifts off of a dump truck to get these style wheels here. But that being said, I'm gonna get off here and mess with this just a little bit more, and we will catch you on the next one. Stay tuned for the second part of this build, and hope everybody has a good evening.